I thought there were a lot of examples today of a group that's been together for a long time, executing at a level that I would expect them to execute at this time of year. And yeah, it was a really good play.
You sense a difference in the sharpness in the passing attack with all the receivers being here this year? Is that something that's tangible to you?
Yeah, I think so. You know, you mentioned it. It's everybody here, everybody working. You know, for the first time in 4 or 5 years, we're not getting a pass catching tight end up to speed. He's here and he's integrated within the system, and he's making great adjustments within that. You know, I think what we do, talking about Mike specifically, I think for a lot of our guys, but Mike specifically, I think we're a match made in heaven. And so, yeah, I think we're doing a good job, but I keep coming back. That's what we should look like right now. That's if we have the type of expectations for ourselves, and you know, if we want to do the things we think we can do, that's exactly what we should look like.
What makes him such a great match for what y'all want to do?
Mike, well, I mean, I just think number one, he's obviously built to run and catch, which I know you guys watch us a lot. We tend to. It's a big part of what we do. You know, and he's hyper aware. He's very smart. We give those guys flexibility within our passing attack to make decisions. Don't be a robot. Be a football player. Take in the information. There'll be times where maybe you do something that we would rather you had made a different decision, but we'll talk about it and we'll learn from it and we'll move forward.
How's
and I think, no, you're good. You're good. I think that fits him well. Good. Go ahead, Kelsey.
How's Dylan Fairchild been? Sorry, I did not mean to cut you off.
Awesome. Yeah, really impressed with Dylan. You know, this time of year, for those guys, it's a different emphasis, right? We don't have the pads on. You're not getting the the day in and day out physical battles that are going to characterize training camp and really that characterize success at that position. So what are you looking for? You're looking for a guy who comes to work every day, who's dialed in, who's a pro, who asks good questions. You like the look in his eye. It doesn't feel too big. Joe makes an adjustment. He knows what he's doing. He's constantly attached to Ted's hip. Ted's doing a great job bringing him up to speed on everything. He takes it in. You can see the understanding. And then, you know, you watch him go through the drills with Scott, and I think physically he's everything we expected him to be. So really excited about Dylan.
How does he handle when he makes a mistake? Obviously, mistakes happen for rookies. How does
Dylan?
He handle that? Yes.
I mean, he's upset at himself and frustrated, which I like to see. Yeah. Like, you know, you don't want a guy that makes a mistake and says, "Oh, well, I'm just a rookie, so you're going to get more of that." You know, like he's mad at himself, and he wants to be able to make all the adjustments that we would expect a veteran to make. And I think he's made steps in that direction. So just really pleased all around with his response and his overall approach.
Even though you can only do so much physically this time of year, there was a period late today where there was like pass pro, and it was pretty aggressive. Are you trying to do what you're permitted to do, basically, you know, to
yeah, listen, we're gonna follow all the guidelines that dictate how we can practice this time of year. But you know, we want to challenge our guys. We've talked at length with our line specifically and the whole unit about just how critical that element is to our success. And we put a clip up there today, you know, versus a 5-man rush, and it stresses the line out, right? There's 5 one-on-one matchups across the board, but I made the point to him, there's 5 one-on-one matchups on the outside that are all in our favor. So when you guys can step up and execute in those spots, that's a game-changing play. And I think they're understanding that. We're going to keep putting them in difficult situations, right? Pascal, that's an offensive drill, right? The defense is in a tough situation there. The drill you're talking about, we got to put our guys in tough spots and see how they respond, and I think they've done a good job of that.
What are your thoughts so far this year on Germaine Pratt's progression from last year? Yeah,
Germaine's done everything that we've asked him to do throughout the spring. He's got a good look in his eye. He's here putting the time in. I would say that his mental errors and things that are within his control are much improved from where they were a year ago, which is a jump I would expect most second-year players to make. But it's notable for Germaine that I do see him putting the work in. And really, you know, for Germaine, it's just going to be about maintaining a consistency, having that be able to sustain through training camp, through the preseason. You know, when there's a hiccup, when something doesn't go his way, he doesn't have a great practice, maybe the opportunities aren't all there that he would like. How consistent can he be? And so we'll challenge him that way, but pleased with what he's done this spring.
Both T. Higgins and Joe Burrow the last week have spoken extremely highly of the steps that Andre Iosivas has made this offseason. What have you seen different out of Andre?
I mean, I just think you're seeing he's the perfect example of a guy that you take late in the draft because of his physical gifts. He's got tremendous intelligence, right? So you got a smart guy with physical gifts coming from a small school, entering the big pond, right? And having to figure out what that means and the physicality that comes with that and the consistency that we need out of him to be the passing attack that we want to be. So he makes a jump from year 1 to 2. Now from 2 to 3, you see the confidence. You see the chest out. You see just how he carries himself. Like he believes that he's like those other 2 guys. And he's making steps to get there. And in a lot of other buildings, he would have the opportunity that a T. Higgins has. And so when you don't have that same volume, he knows that when the ball does come his way, he's got to take advantage of it. And I just think you've seen the confidence grow. Super proud of his progression. And I think you're only going to see him continue to get better.
If all of the receivers in your stable of receivers perform the way you think they will, how difficult could they make your job in terms of deciding who the 3 is, who the 4 is?
The good kind of difficult. Yeah, that's the kind of difficult you sign up for. And it's not difficult. It's my job. I mean, that's the job. It's here are the ingredients. Make the meal. You know, how do you? And we got some really good ingredients. So we're going to find out. We're going to figure out ways to keep them all involved. That's what the off season's for. That's why we have really smart coaches on staff who have their own areas of specialty, who spend a lot of time working on that, and who bring great ideas to the table. So
how different are their skill sets at this point?
All the 3 receivers or
4?
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, Jamar's Triple Crown winner. He does everything. T is close behind him in terms of his game-changing ability. You guys can just look at the stats of how we play when they're both on the field, in terms of a vertical stretch, in terms of the way he can separate from a 6'4" guy that weighs what he weighs and moves the way he moves. Not normal. Dre can do everything, right? We put him in all 3 spots. We ask him to do everything. He does the dirty work. He can also win in man coverage when they decide to double team Jamar and T. We got a winner in Dre. We got a winner in Mike Gesicki. And we got a winner in Chase Brown. So, good luck.
Have you seen kind of Burrow push himself, kind of trying to thread the needle over the middle and kind of see what he can do and see what he can get away with, and he's getting away with it?
Yeah, I think you could characterize it that way. I just see a guy that's seen a lot of football, played a lot of football, has absolutely no fear whatsoever, total comfort and confidence in himself and in his skill set. And if there's a window, he's gonna throw the ball in it. Like, doesn't matter how big it is, he's gonna make the throw. And there's been a lot of really tight window throws that he's made.
What you saw him have to see in the run game do something this season?
Yeah, I think there's certainly room to grow there. I think we made strides at times last year. You know, I think what we look like that'll kind of work itself out during training camp, because there's some different directions that can go without getting too lost in the weeds. We have to continue to be able to take advantage of when teams dedicate resources to stopping the passing attack, i.e. shell coverage and creating, 6 5.5 man boxes. Those are things that we have to be able to take advantage of. So that just means we don't have to do every run scheme in the world. We can make sure our universe is just the right size, rep it over and over and over again, and then just execute consistently up front. And I believe in Chase Brown. I think he's a top 10 back in the league, so I think he'll do the rest.
When you get the backs involved in the pass game as well, how much more dynamic is that? Is that a big focal point for you all this season, and try to see what they can do in the pass game?
Yeah. I mean, I think, again, like Chase is another guy who kind of fits in the same category as Yoshi. Like the progression's natural. He's got a well-rounded skill set. I think he obviously contributed in that phase a lot last year as well. And so you start to see, well, what else could we do? Where else could we put him? And all along you have to. There does come a point where you have to focus your resources and make tough decisions, because there's a lot of good ideas, and you just have to decide which are the ones that we need to invest time in. But yes, getting the backs involved in the pass game is something we intend to do.
Is right guard likely to be Cody Ford or Lucas Patrick in a training camp battle?
I think it'll be a good battle, and those guys are two competitive guys that know what NFL football looks like, and I look forward to seeing how that plays out.
Since you've been here, training camp's been in the afternoon. It's going to be in the morning for practice. From your vantage point, why the change? Why do you think it would be beneficial?
I think I've never been somebody who is a big proponent for like change for the sake of change, but in this case, it's not gonna hurt, and it's when you've been together for as long as we have, shuffling something that's simple, that is inexpensive, I think it's good. I think, from a logistical standpoint, it can sometimes help with the heat a little bit for the players. I think the players are probably happy. From a coaching standpoint, it does affect how you prepare. You go from having a walkthrough in the morning to prep for an afternoon practice to now your walkthroughs the night before to prep for a morning practice. So just the flow of your day and how you organize meetings and how you plan ahead, that it does kind of have a significant impact on that, but it's just getting used to the new schedule. So I'm excited about it. We'll see how it goes.
What has it been like for you to know that all of your weapons this offseason pretty much unchanged, coming back with the consistency and
continuity's huge. It gives you a sense of comfort as a coach, and it's nice because you can really work to build on each year's a new year, right? So that much is true. But one of the first things we talked about as a unit when we got together this spring was there are very few offenses in the league that have the experience and the time and the reps together that we have. So don't apologize for that. Take advantage of that. Build on the foundation that currently exists. And I think we've done that this spring. So it makes you feel good, but you have to use it. Don't if someone's giving you a head start in the race, don't go back and start with everybody else. Take the damn head start and use it, and that's what we're trying to do.
How do you, you mentioned your confidence in Chase. How do you see kind of the rest of that room supporting him? Kind of in the
Jamar Chase or Chase Brown?
Chase Brown.
Chase Brown?
Running back there.
Yeah. Love having Samaje back in the fold. Really smart, pro, tough. I could, every superlative I could give to Samaje. Like, coaches are going to love the dude because that's just how he's built. I think he meshes well with Chase. Taj has been excellent. He's a rookie. He's going to do some rookie stuff, but really, really happy with him. I think he's a guy in most years gets selected higher than where he got selected. It was a deep running back draft, so we're fortunate we got a chance to take him. And then after those guys, it'll kind of shake out. We'll see with Zach and the other young guys, and just kind of go from there.